Another one, Astros going to the World Series. A lot of happy people around here. I'm not going to lie. The path to the World Series was as beautiful as I can remember. Perfect. Yankees, they talk all that smack. You sweep them. You're celebrating on their turf. Perfect. Way better than winning it here. Way better. Man, that was way too easy. I wanted it in 5 or less. That was way too easy. And it was pitiful. Quite honestly, it was a real pitiful performance by the Yankees. The Yankees are clearly the second best baseball team that the Astros have faced in this run. I don't even think it's close. I'll ask Baseball Spo. He knows these things better than me. I'll get him in a sec. But I just want to say what I said on the air today. We're about to be joined by Baseball Spo, who's Basketball Spo too, but he's Baseball Spo on our show. World Series or bust. I'm not going to look back at this season fondly if the Astros don't win the World Series. The Astros are no longer measured by what your freaking dad tells you about what happened in 1986. They're no longer measured against Craig Biggio and Jeff Bagwell. It's time to get historic. And if you want to be called a dynasty, you've got to do one thing. You've got to win multiple championships. This is a sustained success that you can stack it up with some teams in the past, but this has to be a World Series, or I'm not going to look at this I'm not going to look at this fondly. Not. It's been laid out. You have to win the World Series. You got to beat the Philadelphia Phillies. You have to. And if you don't have that mindset, you might as well go to Academy Sports and Outdoors, get your World Series hat. You don't even need to watch anymore, if that's the mindset you're going to have. But I judge the Astros I just judge teams based on their expectations that they have based on what they can do. I've never in my life thought the Texans were championship or bust, even when they were at their best. I don't even think I've thought maybe the Rockets the second time with Golden State, maybe. But even when Hakeem was winning championships, I mean, did you go into that season and say championship or bust? That's where I'm at with the Astros. And I also don't want to be the damn NL East blunt. I don't want to be passed around like a damn blunt around the NFC East. 1986, the Mets. Boom, heartbreaker. 2019, Nationals. Another NL East team. AJ Hinch wets the bed, you lose. Braves last year, celebrating a World Series on your field. Marlins would be the only team that hadn't stuck it to you like that. Don't want to be the NL East blunt. With that said, bring in my baseball god, Adam Spolane. Baseball Spo. World Series or bust. Am I being too harsh?
Yeah, but that's I don't ever believe in if the season is a failure if you don't win a championship. I don't like putting 6 months of work and then just having, or I guess now it's 7 months of work. I don't like evaluating 7 months in the span of a week. I don't think that's fair to do that.
But so don't you think the historic perspective kind of adds to it, given just how people look at that 2017 championship and how it could minimize the blow there, because it matters in baseball, Spo. Like, this isn't football. Like, in baseball, this kind of crap matters. Like, some of the best players in the history of baseball are not in the Hall of Fame because of cheating allegations. And maybe if the Astros win this, I'm not saying there aren't going to be people still stuck in their ways, but they're going to look at this like, oh, well, maybe this team was just great. Maybe they didn't need to do that. I think from a historic perspective, from like when we start talking about dynasties, I think it is a little bit different though than any other year, in any other team, any other situation.
Yeah, I certainly think it helps, but I don't think that they go to bed every single night saying, well, we need to show them that 17 wasn't a fluke. I don't think that that's really the mindset. I think that they've done what they've done really over these last 4 or 5 years, even the years since the scandal actually came out, and they keep winning. And I think that they are more than content. But listen, they certainly want to win the World Series, and it would certainly be huge for their legacy as an organization, for their individual legacies with what they've accomplished, not only in the game, but for the city. So yeah, I do think that it matters, but I don't go around thinking that, well, the last 7 months are a failure because they lost 4 out of 7 to the Phillies. That's not how I look at it. I didn't think it was a failure because they lost the World Series to the Braves. I didn't think that 2019 was a failure because they lost Game 7 to the Nationals. That's just not how I look at it. And the same thing, I would say the same thing for the Dodgers in 2017. I don't think that season is a failure for them because they lost Game 7 to the Astros. Sometimes you just get beat. That's just how it is. That's how sports work.
Where does this Phillies team rank? If we're just looking at the 4 World Series opponents, where does this team rank? We'll get into the Astros in a sec, but the main reason that you're here with me, on top of I like to talk to you, is you have a better MLB wide perspective than anyone in this town. Where do these Phillies stack up compared to the World Series opponents of the past? And how do they stack up against the Astros?
There are certainly a lot of there's some similarities with the Washington team from 2019, where you have the 2 really good starters at the top of the rotation. The third starter, Ranger Suarez, is good. The bullpen is not very good. At least you don't think it's very good. And then offensively, that Nationals team, it was really condensed. What we thought, it was condensed to the top of the order. The guys at the bottom were the ones that really made a difference. And you look at this Phillies team, and it's Schwarber and Harper, in the top half, and the bottom half isn't great. But I think the one area that you can really exploit with the Phillies is the defense. It is a bad defensive team. It has been a bad defensive team for most of the year. They've gotten a little bit better in the outfield with the acquisition of Brandon Marsh, but they're going to make some mistakes out there. And if you can capitalize on those mistakes, which the Astros just did against the Yankees, especially last night, that's how you beat them.
What about this Astros team? Because this is kind of what you do when you start talking about dynasties and, historic and all that type of stuff. Where do they rank, the Astros, when it comes to against the good team? Let's just start from 2017 on. Where does this team rank against 2017, 2019, and 2021 in this year? Because I think 2019 is the best Astros team ever, and they didn't win it. So that might go back to your point. Well, it's not a disappointment. I think I look at it more as a disappointment that they didn't win it. But that to me is the best Astros baseball team that I've seen. Where does this team stack up with all those squads?
Yeah, it's definitely not better than 19. I think when you look at, I think you could say it is better than 21 because this team is healthy, whereas 21 was not healthy. 21,
no McCullers really. Yeah,
McCullers was out at this point as well, and there were some other guys who were, Bregman was hurt, which was something that we really didn't know at the time. I think you can probably say it might be better than 17 right now just because of the depth of the bullpen, and you just feel better about that spot than you did back then. If you told me this is the second best of the 6 teams that have made it to this point, no, I don't think it's unfair to say that going into the World Series, this could wind up being the second best team that they've had, better than the team that won the World Series.
It's the best pitching, right?
Oh, top to bottom, this is the best pitching staff that we've seen in a long, long time. Not just Astros, but you might be able to stack this up against just about anybody at this point.
Dusty Baker. I want to get into Dusty because there was, and there's still, I don't know if it's still there, but there's kind of like a notion, well, you downgraded from AJ Hinch to Dusty Baker. And, they got a guy who was perfect for this situation. And we've seen what Dusty's done at this point. Can you name off the top of your head? Because I've tried, and I know you're not like a hindsight guy, but before I get into like this Dusty Baker discussion, can you think of like a mistake, like a clear mistake that he's made in the postseason from 2020 to now? Because I really can't.
I think the one thing that you can point to last year was when he would continue to pinch hit Marwin Gonzalez against right-handed pitchers when Marwin was by far a better hitter from the right side. But that's a very
you're grasping for straws,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, I'm telling you, that's a very small thing.
No, it's a good pull, but because the point I'm making is that I can't, but I
Oh.
can point to a lot of things he's done phenomenally.
I agree. I think that he has maneuvered, and it's not just Dusty Baker too. Let's give the entire staff a lot of credit. Because when you are, we've talked about this. You're mapping these games out as a staff, especially when it comes to the pitching, and you're looking at it before a series starts. You're looking at it before a game starts. About, okay, we can use this guy here, that guy there, this guy for this pocket, that guy. That's what you're kind of doing, and they have had the Mariners and now the Yankees very well scouted. They have been on top of everything. But in terms of just the actual moves, they've all been there. There hasn't been anything. He seems to have taken starting pitchers out at the right time. He has seemed to go with the right guy every single time. I know people have kind of been on the whole, well, where's Ryan Sanek? They haven't needed it. It's all work. I mean, they've kind of trusted Brian Abreu, and that's worked out really well. They've trusted Rafael
Montero.
Montero's been great for them the entire year. So they've used Hector Neris in spots where maybe you didn't think, like they used him against Cal Raleigh in game 2 with the bases loaded when they're down a run. That worked out really well. That's when they pulled Framber Valdez right before that. That's a spot where you say, well, just keep rolling with Framber. You get the platoon advantage there, and Dusty Baker went the complete opposite. And Neris, that worked out about as well as you could have possibly asked. And every single pitcher that they went to in that game 3 in Seattle came through. So I think that they have really maneuvered everything really well. They're kind of the moves that they made off the bench, especially in game 1 against Seattle. I mean, David Hensley, that worked out great. You can't say anything else. You can't say anything negative about it. So I think that they've maneuvered these games really well. I think Dusty Baker, one of the things that I think is his biggest strength as a manager is that he knows his teams very well, and he knows how to read the game very well. And he has done that about as perfectly as you can through the first 7 games of the playoffs.
And see, the thing for me, if we're just going to compare him to Hinch, is I think that he's had to juggle a lot more. Like, even when they had the really good bullpen in 19, like, I'm not going to like minimize it too much to say anyone could do it, but you knew Will Harris had the 7th, you knew that Presley had the 8th, and you knew that Osuna had the 9th. So, I mean, it's not like you having to feel it out and say, I'm going to go with Montero against Seattle, and then I'm going to go with Neris here, and I'm going to give Abreu the 8th in a 1-run game against the Yankees when the series is still it's a 1-0 series. Like, he's having to do a lot more. He's not like Hinch didn't have to decide, oh, I'm going to move Jeremy Pena up to the 2-hole, and we're going to have to figure that out. I'm going to have to, figure out how to juggle McCormick, and for some reason Myers is in the equation. Like, it just seems like he's had to do a lot more maneuvering than Hinch had to do because those teams were so good.
I don't agree with that. I do agree with you on the lineup aspect. That was a very easy lineup. You just plug in the same guys every single day, and you really never deviated from the plan. I think there is, maybe they would do something with the catchers. Chirinos would catch for a couple guys, and Maldonado would catch for the other 2 guys. But for the most part, they just stuck that lineup. It was the same every single night. The pitching, though, I think you got to give Hinch a little bit more credit for what he did just maneuvering through the bullpen, because it wasn't quite, this guy 7th, this guy 8th, this guy 9th. I mean, remember game 2, I'll never forget game 2 against Tampa Bay in that series. They have Osuna for the 9th inning, and Osuna was struggling, and Osuna could not get out of that inning. They had to turn to Will Harris, and Will Harris cleaned up the mess, and they won the game. If they don't win that game, I don't know if they get out of that series. Presley was hurt, so Presley was kind of, in and out, and you didn't know where you could trust him, and he was kind of their guy who would get out of messes. I mean, they had to – the bullpen wasn't nearly as good back then. Osuna wasn't nearly as good as what you have with Presley right now. I mean, you go down the line, and I don't – there are very few relievers who were on that staff that would be able to be on this staff at this point. The starting pitching was about equal. I mean, you had just 2 horses, absolute horses at the top who could give you 8 innings if you needed 8 innings from them a lot of the time. But I do think that Hinch, people have kind of glossed over a lot of the work that Hinch has done just because of the one game and the one decision.
And I'm guilty of it. Yeah, I'll never forgive him. Because that Will Harris, that he knew Will Harris was tired there.
But everybody's tired at that point of the year. Like, don't forget, like, there isn't.
He said he said he was gassed, and he pitched him the next day in game 6, and he gave up a home run, and then he brought him in game 7.
But that, again, that's what you do when you get to that point of the World Series. And you don't think that
Dusty wouldn't have done that. Dusty would have gone to someone else.
Well, Dusty has more options than Hinch had at that point. That's the other thing. And you don't think that Garrett Cole wasn't gassed? I don't want to relitigate 2019.
No, let's relitigate.
You don't think that
Garrett? This is part of the reason why it's World Series or bust too. This loss is part of the reason it's World Series or bust too.
Well, that guy got fired. That guy never managed another game for the team.
Well, he didn't get fired for that.
I don't know if they win that game. Maybe Jim Crane he's a little more forgiving if they win that game. No, I get what you're saying about it. I totally understood it.
No, you know more than me. I mean, I'm not. I feel like let me pull back the curtain a little bit.
Okay.
Maybe I'm kind of a prisoner of the game 7 with Hinch, but I'm also like going a little bit far in minimizing Hinch, not intentionally, because I just think Dusty doesn't get enough credit for what he's done. And I feel like he's literally done nothing wrong since he's been the manager. I mean, we had to go to Marwin Gonzalez pinch hitting earlier. So maybe I am being a little extreme.
And by the way, Marwin Gonzalez saved Game 5 of the World Series last year when Dusty Baker pinch hit for him, but he did it against the left-handed pitcher in that spot. But yeah, that's what you're grasping with. And all these individual, I still see it all the time when they'll make one move and Dusty's napping over there. Like, come on, like let's be better than this. But yeah, I get it all the time in my mentions about how Dusty Baker should be fired. People said he should have been fired in August when they're not playing Trey Mancini every single day. So yeah, I do think that Dusty Baker has gotten kind of a bad rap from a big portion of the fan base. I think that he's done a very good job over these 3 years. I don't know if he's going to come back for a fourth, but he's certainly earned the chance to do so.
Does he want to if they win it? That's the other thing.
He has said that if you win the one, you want to get the second one.
Come on.
But I will tell you, they're doing Dusty chants on the stage yesterday. They're talking about winning it for Dusty. I had never heard them say, do a Dusty chant. I've never heard them say, let's win it for Dusty. I've never heard that before. That kind of makes me think that maybe he's not coming back and they know he's not coming back. I don't know. That's me. Just no reporting, no anything. That's kind of what it feels like to me with how they were acting a little bit last night.
You got to win it, Dan. Got to win it. Was there anything? Go ahead.
They got a good shot to win it. I mean, they're favored. They should win this. They're favored.
Where's your money at?
You know what? I screwed up when it opened at 160. I should have jumped on it then. But last I saw it went up to 200. I don't know. Should I go buy a mattress?
Can you still do that?
I think you can.
Oh my God. I'm going to have to go buy a mattress my damn self. Mattress Mac. Because he's going to bank. This ain't a hedge this year. This is big money for him. He's put a lot of money on the Stros.
Well, there's a lot of people who have bought a lot of furniture too.
Let's get to Jeremy Pena, MVP of the ALCS. If he's not hitting 2, they don't win that series. How good can this guy be? Because we saw Carlos Correa burst onto the scene. How good can Jeremy Pena be?
He certainly can be an all-star. I mean, you saw it already this year where it didn't seem like he was that far off from being there, especially early. Faded a little bit offensively. He got a little bit better. Chandler Rome has written about some of the adjustments that he's made to his swing, which has obviously it's helped him because he's had some great results. But just getting this full season in, understanding what it takes to play a full major league season, I think is important. And this was going to be a tough year for him just because he had not played at the upper levels of the minor leagues very much. You know, he didn't have a season at all in 2020. He was drafted in 19, didn't play at all in 2020. He got hurt the first week of the 2021 season. He played a month in AAA. Really, all you were going on was what he did in winter ball. But I know they were high on him. They thought even this time last year that he was ready to take on the everyday role. I do think that he is way ahead of what they thought he would be offensively, because defensively, that's what you read about. Defensively was where he was going to make his money. And they started to see a little bit more progress from him offensively than maybe that they had expected. And the one story I'll tell, they're playing a sim game at Minute Maid Park before the start of the World Series. And Zach Greinke is pitching because Greinke didn't get to pitch a whole lot. And they're just trying to, it's just trying to keep him somewhat in rotation. And Pena hit a home run off of Greinke. And that's when people started to really believe in his future. I'm not saying that's what was the final straw in letting Carlos Correa walk, but I do think it gave them a lot of extra confidence that they could let Correa go and they didn't need to replace Correa for, they didn't need Pena to be basically an understudy for a year. So I do think that what they saw from him, just everything you read about the guy, I've talked to people who knew him back in the Dominican, just playing winter ball against him, and all they just did was just rave about the makeup and rave about the maturity, and you see it here. I mean, he is as mature as it gets. He's what, 24, 25. He acts like he's a 35-year-old.
Describe what makeup is, because I hear it a lot. What does makeup mean?
Like intangibles, basically.
Okay.
I think
so
probably,
the it factor.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, he's not going to get. He's going to be responsible. He's not going to do dumb stuff. He's going to be able to handle himself in big spots. That to me is what it is.
The matchup with the Phillies. There's, baseball's kind of become a regional sport. Not a lot of people know a lot about the Phillies, and I don't know a ton. I've watched their postseason games. How do the Astros match up? Because last year you kind of warned us about the Braves. How do they match up with this team as compared to last year? And how much do you like their chances?
I think that the Braves team last year that the Astros faced is much better than the team that they're about to face right now. Starting pitching, you had the two guys at the top with Nola and Wheeler, but after that, it's a little shaky. Ranger Suarez is fine as a lefty. The Astros faced him, I think it was game 161, and they lit him up. Now, that was a hangover game for them, so I don't read a whole lot into it. It's not a guy that the Astros will have the advantage in game 3, whether it's Javier or whether it's McCullers. They will have the advantage in that game. They'll have the advantage in games 1 and 2 also. That's just how good Verlander and Framber have been over the course of the season. But when you get to game 4, you're looking at probably a bullpen game for the Phillies, and that started out really poorly for them yesterday. And so you're going with a bullpen game against Christian Javier or Lance McCullers Jr. That's a big advantage for the Astros. And then just the depth of the staff isn't quite the same. You don't have, last year the Braves had all those relievers. It was Matzik, and it was Will Smith, and it was AJ Minter, and it was Luke Jackson. There was, I think Kyle Wright was pitching out of the bullpen for them going back. Phillies don't have that. They've got a bunch of guys that maybe you might be able to mix and match with. The lefty Jose Alvarado is really good. He throws hard from the left side. But you saw it yesterday. They're going with David Robertson in the 9th inning against the Padres, and Robertson couldn't get out of it. So there are ways to, if you're and the Phillies have had bullpen issues really for years and years and years, even before this season. So you have chances to get back in games against the Phillies. Offensively, they've got power. You got Kyle Schwarber hitting in the leadoff spot. Obviously, Harper, Real Muto is really good. Once you get towards the bottom of the order, it's not quite the same. They're not going to run a whole lot, but defensively is really the big weakness for that team. It's just been a bad defensive team all year. It's gotten a little bit better with the acquisition of Brandon Marsh in center field. So they've been able to, have some guys not quite, out of position the way that they have, but it's just, they're going to struggle in that spot. So they're going to give you some extra outs. It's just whether or not you can take advantage of those outs.
Is it fair to say that the best baseball team the Astros faced was in the first round?
I don't think it's far off to say that. I really don't. You could kind of feel that.
They could have easily gotten swept by Seattle.
Oh yeah. And you know what? You said that they blew out the Yankees. Yeah, I know they won 4 in a row, but those were some close games.
I know.
Really, the only game
I got to hike my leg on them.
Yeah, you did, and I come to expect that. But really, aside from game 3, all the other 3 of the 4 games against the Yankees were very close and could have gone either way. Kyle Tucker makes a catch in right field because the roof is open in the second game. Game 1 was very close, and the Yankees had the lead there in the beginning. So it was a little closer. The Yankees are up 3-0 yesterday. The Yankees should have won that game yesterday. Let's be honest. So that was a much closer ALCS, and I think people will remember it for because it was a sweep. But if you told me that the Mariners are the best team that they played this postseason, it would not shock me. And I don't think I would push back too severely on that.
If they win the World Series, is Spo going to put some goggles on and go in the locker room or what?
I hope they clinch it in Philly. I don't want to deal with that. They'll go buy it.
I want you to have to go in there and get champagne poured on you.
I've done it before. It's, it is what it is. I was in the Cardinals clubhouse. They clinched the wild card here in 11, and I'm in the Cardinals clubhouse, and Adam Wainwright just walked up to me and poured a beer on my head. So, and I didn't have a poncho that day. I got to go buy a poncho though if it does go to game 6 and 7.
They should have them for you. We'll save your prediction for Wednesday. Fire up the Audacy app, Baseball Spo, 10:40 every Wednesday on In the Loop. So we'll get your prediction there. I kind of feel you're leaning a certain way, but I won't put words in your mouth. But I do feel like you think this is going 6, at least 6.
If you told me it was short, I wouldn't be shocked. I'll just say that.
Okay. So 3-4-4 Astros 11-0 in the postseason. That where we're going?
That would, you know what? That would be something. That really would be something if they did that. That's really, really hard to do to win 11 straight postseason games, but it's in play.
It is.
I would have that, 2 or 3 weeks ago, but it is certainly in play.
Hopefully so. And World Series are bust. If they don't, it's a disappointment. We both agree on that.
No, not, but I'll just live with it.
Spo, appreciate you, man. I'll see you Wednesday. Go do the Lord's work and cover this Rocket squad.
It's gonna be a good one. Gonna be a real good one tonight.
Utah Jazz. Sell me on it.
Utah Jazz undefeated, coming off a back-to-back, just stunned New Orleans yesterday. We should see Usman Garuba get a start at center with Bruno Fernando hurt, and who knows, Şengün might be hurt. Şengün's sick; he might not play. So we might just get a lot of Usman Garuba tonight.
There we go. We'll enjoy that. Save that press pass or whatever. Put it up there in the trophy case.
You'll be locked in at 7 for all 48 minutes because of that.
Yeah. No, I will. I really will. Yeah. Although I might go back and forth because Bears Patriots is so riveting. It makes me think about 1985. That Super Bowl.
Never get a chance to watch the Bears offense. You can't. So I get where you're coming from.
It makes me think about Fridge Perry taking Walter Payton's touchdown. Mike Ditka still going to hell for that. Appreciate you, Spo.
See you later.
All right, there you go. Baseball Spo here in the locker room. World Series or bust, period. Point blank, end of story. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. What say you? Put your opinion in the comments. Will you be disappointed if the Astros don't win the World Series? You can hit me up at Landry Locker on Twitter, at Landry Locker on Instagram. It's awesome. World Series. I wanted to try to get out there. I'm not going to lie. I'm not like John McClain. I'm not like Sean Pendergast. I don't know how to weasel my way into all these free tickets. They've been around a lot longer than me. When you're the GOAT of football media in Houston, like John McClain, you can weasel your way into tickets. When you're the GOAT of radio in Houston, in my opinion, I think Sean Pendergast, unquestioned to me. I know some guys will say some other stuff. Those guys haven't done it as long and as effective as Sean. Come on. He's my GOAT. I can already see someone getting upset at this. He's my GOAT, okay? But he can weasel his way into tickets. I can't. I looked at StubHub. You know how much those tickets are right now in the upper deck? $900. Be damn if I'm going to pay $900 for any game. Definitely not the World Series, man. I've been before. Spoiled. World Series or bust, though. Appreciate y'all. Subscribe. Hit me up at Landry Locker on Twitter, at Landry Locker on Instagram, Audacy app. What a time to be alive. What a path here. But again, it's like a road trip. The drive can be perfect, but if you don't have a great trip, the trip as a whole sucked. And it will suck if the Astros do everything so perfect, humbling that young, hungry division opponent and sweeping them and then sweeping those damn Yankees and the disgrace that they become. You don't win a World Series here. It is a disappointment. Tell me different in the comments. Appreciate y'all. Have a good one. Love you all. We are all in this together. World Series time, baby. Let's win 2. Let's turn this into a dynasty instead of a nice little run.